Hi and welcome to Swan Island Dahlias. I'm Heather, part of the team here, and this is Dahlia 101. We are talking about spraying. Those pests, those insects. Let's talk about what happens during the summer and what you need to be doing to have flourishing, gorgeous dahlias. So remember, pest control is so important, but most important is that you do it preventatively. Preventative spraying is the key. Keep the pests away before you see them and before they've done their damage. Remember that your damage on your plants is going to show up in 1 to 2 weeks after the pests have been there. So it's really important that you spray and stay ahead of them, because once you see damage, a lot more is going to be coming. So a lot of times we get pictures or we get customers concerned that they have virus or disease. It is rare in dahlias, but it does happen. But most of the time, almost all of the time, it is pest damage, and it has symptoms that maybe look similar to virus, but is not virus. So we always want you to call us, email us pictures before you ever dispose of a plant because you think it's got virus. Let us help you diagnose it, because we don't want you throwing anything away before it's been diagnosed properly. So we recommend that you spray every 2 weeks. We have to all summer long because we are inspected by the Oregon State Agricultural Department, because we are shipping across state lines and internationally. So preventative is the key. We don't want any of our plants having trouble. So let's talk about what pests are the biggest culprits for causing damage to your dahlias. Number one hardest pest to take care of is spider mites. Spider mites live on the back of the leaves of your plant. They will start to damage the plant by drying out the leaves at the bottom. Then they'll work their way up to the next set and the next set and keep on working their way up until they completely dry out your plant and pretty much have killed it. It's really painful to watch, but they thrive in heat, and it always looks like your plant needs more water. It's drying out, you think you need to add water, and you are adding exactly what they want, which is humidity. They thrive in heat and humidity. If you have a bad case and they've gotten ahead of you, it's really important that you remove any of the really bad dried up leaves and dispose of them. Do not compost them, but dispose of them. Spider mites are a micro, little tiny creature that lives on the back of the leaves, and they can do so much damage and so quickly. So you'll want to make sure, again, when you're spraying, that you're spraying bottom up and you're spraying the underside of all of the leaves. You don't want to just get the tops because they're living underneath. You might be able to feel a little graininess on the leaves if you're out there checking, or in an early dewy morning, you might see a little cobwebbing on the back of the leaves, but ideally they're almost microscopic and it's really hard for people to see them. So I just think you need to preventatively spray for them because you don't want them to kill your plants. Second little creature that we hear a lot about is earwigs. Tend to be more of a nuisance or a pest than a lot of damage, although they do chew on some of the petals and do some damage to your blooms. But they do go down at night, and so what we want to do is use a product that will hurt them when they come down, so they stay off of your plants and out of your flowers. So we recommend on those guys that you're using a product called 7. And if you were to put the dust down around the base of the plant, when they come down at night, it will kill them. So they're really just more of a nuisance, not doing a huge amount of damage, but they seem to be a huge nuisance for most of our customers because they don't want them in their blooms. They don't want to be cutting the flowers and bringing them in and having the earwigs crawl on their tables. So try and stay ahead of them by putting that around the base of your plant. Next critter that we deal with a lot is the cucumber beetle, and he's related to the ladybug, and we don't want to hurt her. So it's really tough to do any type of spraying because what you would be doing would hurt both of them. So I highly recommend that you just kind of deal with them. There really isn't a good spray for them. You can pick them off, which is what most people recommend. Seems a little crazy to do because they're just going to fly in again. But for some reason, they tend to like the light colored flowers. So if you seem to have a huge issue with them, just stay away from light colored flowers and skip them. But really, there isn't any good spray for them because we don't want to hurt our ladybugs. Next thing is thrips. Thrips can do a lot of damage. They're a little tiny little black bug They suck the juices out of the leaves and can give you crinkled leaves. They eat the petals in your blooms. They are just a nuisance all the way around, but they're easy to take care of. Really broad spectrum sprays will take care of them. So you want to get a jump on them, get ahead of them before they're damaging your blooms, because most of the time they're in the buds eating the petals before it ever opens up. And then when it opens up, you've got a nasty looking bloom. Maybe it's got chewed off petals, holes in the petals. So it's really important to stay ahead of them. Next thing is aphids. Aphids, again, are a nice little tiny black bug that tends to coat the stem. Hundreds of them or thousands of them will be right up under the bloom, and they just literally coat the stem. They're easy to take care of. You can almost use any broad spectrum spray to take care of them, but they're more of a nuisance than anything, and they just kind of clump together and coat your stems, and they're just kind of nasty. So they're important to take care of, and we usually see them early on in the season, not as much later in the heat. One other thing is leaf miners. We've seen a lot of pictures this year of leaf miners, and leaf miners just really make trails on your leaves and do damage in the leaves or on the leaves. Again, sucking a lot of juices and making just nasty looking leaves. So look for a spray that takes care of them. Everybody's got different bugs. We have different bugs than the East Coast has. Sometimes it's really difficult to tell you exactly what to use, but I'm going to show you a few products that we carry and a few things that we use here or can use here, just so that you know what to go out and look for. BioAdvance, I think, has probably maybe the worst history in that a lot of people are really worried about it with bees. We do carry it. It really should be used early in the season before you've got blooms, so that you aren't hurting your pollinators, those bees out there. So it's a great product, does a great job on fungus, spider mites, and kind of all around pests, but again, a little more harmful to your bees and not necessarily the best choice if you're trying to protect those bees. We do carry it. We give everybody the opportunity to do what they need to do in their own yard. Monterey horticultural oil is a great option for spider mites. Does cover some other bugs, but it's really a nice organic option for spider mites. But again, make sure you're spraying the backside of the leaves if we're treating for spider mites. Monterey Garden insect spray and Organicide Bee Safe spray, both are great kind of across the board for treating all of those little critters we talked about. So really it's about reading the label, following the manufacturer's directions, and remember that if you are starting to spray, because you see pests, you've got about 2 weeks before you're going to see all of the damage that they have done. Remember, it needs to take time. They've done a lot of damage, and it's going to take a few weeks before it shows up. So be patient, make sure you follow the directions, and always spray in the early morning or late evening, because we want to protect those bees and pollinators. Remember that organics, even though they are safe, they are dangerous. So handle them with care. Be careful with them. Be careful with your pets and your children. Just because it's organic does not mean it's safe. And what we do find with organics is that they are a better preventative. So if you already have an existing issue that you are trying to treat and take care of, organics can be really tough to work on that. So again, it's really about preventative. If you have unhappy plants and you're not seeing many pests, but maybe you're seeing a little crinkled leaves or a few holes in your leaves or petals, they've got stress, and you've got to spray, because many of those critters are flying in. They're micro insects, they're taking the juices out of the plant, and all of that will delay your bloom and growth of your plant. So it's really important that you preventatively spray. I cannot express it enough. But again, protect your pollinators. Those bees, our farm would not be able to exist without the bees. We are lucky enough to have a whole set of hives this year. I think we have 10 hives on our property, and the bees are incredible. So we spray very carefully, and all of our products are approved and bee safe, because guess what? We need the bees. So don't hurt your bees. Be careful in your own yards. Make sure you're looking at your labels and know what to do. So let's talk about the last culprit that can cause a lot of problems with your plant is fungus. And fungus usually shows up late in the season, and it's really more of a spore in the air, and you're either going to get it or not. It's powdery mildew. So if you've ever seen white kind of film on your leaves of your plants, you definitely want to spray for it. you need a fungicide, something like Daconil or anything that you can use on your roses for different funguses will work on your dahlias. But powdery mildew is really ugly, and it really will just take over your plant and turn it white, and you can't take care of it. You can't get it back without spraying. So you will not end up with green leaves except for new growth once you spray. So it's really important that you preventatively start spraying for it early in the season. For us, it's earlier, probably in early July to late July, depending on the season. And we're spraying with a product for fungus, so stay ahead of it. Usually you'll start to see it late August, early September, maybe more in later September, depending on what your temperatures and moisture's like. But again, it just turns your plants white, and people just start panicking when they start seeing white leaves. So you definitely want to spray. You again will not get rid of that residue or that mold that's on your plant, but you will stop it from getting any further. It can literally take over your entire plant, kill your plant, and if you don't spray for it, it will work its way down and mold and just disintegrate your tubers. So it can go down the stalk, and that fungus can eat away your tubers and your eyes for next year's growth. So it's really important to spray preventatively for it, and if you get it or get a bad case of it, make sure you're covering your entire plant. Also, just remember, in general, across the board, pests can attack one plant and not the plant next to it. Same with mildew. You might have one plant that all of a sudden has a bad case of it, or a bad case of spider mites on one plant, and the plants all around it look just fine. We see it in our fields. Spider mites or different insects will attack one variety and not the next, and it can be different from year to year. So just stay up on it. If you see one dying or one having issues, make sure you spray and always watch the new growth. Once you spray, remember, damage is going to take a little bit of time to show up. It's going to continue to show up even after you've sprayed, because the damage has been done. It's just not shown up yet. But once you spray, and about after 2 weeks, you should start to see new growth. And that new growth at the top of your plant should look healthy. And if it's healthy, then you know you've got a pest or a fungus issue, and you're spraying to take care of that and should prevent it, and don't have to worry about any disease or viruses. But again, never throw out a plant before you contact us so we can help diagnose it. So here's what we do at our farm. So we recommend that you preventatively spray, and we do that exact thing, as it is so important. So we are spraying, one of the main products we use is Avid. We're using another product called Minx 2. We're using acephate, and we're using T-methyl, which is for mildew. All of those chemicals are used at different times for different reasons. They're all commercial products, so they may not be something you can get on the market, but they do the job for what we need to do here at the farm. Avid is an excellent spray, a little hard to get your hands on, but it's very expensive. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at your sprays. We do also, when we're spraying, which happens about every 2 weeks, we are also adding a foliar feed of fertilizer. Don't forget to feed your dahlias. Dahlias need lots of sun, lots of deep watering, and really a spraying program to keep them happy. And they've got to have food. They've got to be fertilized. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's so much there for you to watch and learn. Take care.